This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzero, episode number 43.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, what's up, 18 Strong listeners? This is Jeff Pellizzero, your host for the 18 Strong Podcast. I want to thank you for coming on the show. We've got a great guest for you today and a great debate that has been kind of sparked in a small group of golf fitness professionals, and it's all about the idea of training golfers on endurance and how to basically finish 18 strong, exactly what we're usually talking about in this podcast. And there was a little debate going on between a group of golf fitness professionals talking about, the benefits of using cardio or aerobic training versus using power and strength training and weights and things like that. So I figured this is a great way to expose you to some of the different talks that are going on amongst some of the best fitness professionals that are out there working with golfers. And hopefully you'll get a lot of insight, or I know you're going to get a lot of insight into some ideas on how to make your training more effective. And we've got a great guest, Jeremy Crowe, that's on the line with me today, talking about all this stuff and what he does with his clients, with his golfers, and why you should or shouldn't be working with some of these different modalities. And we get to talking about some of the different, energy systems that your body actually uses and how that's effective and what that means for your golf game. And then we just talk about, with your training level, how long you've been training, your expertise in the training world, in the gym, how comfortable you are there. What are some of the things that you should be kind of thinking about and focusing on? Is it more the cardiovascular stuff? Is it more the movement and flexibility and power and strength and all those good things? So we've got some great topics that we cover in this episode. Real quick before we get started, I just want to give you guys an update. I know I've had a bunch of people ask me about the book that I talked about several episodes ago that I'm writing and have written. It's completely written. It is currently being edited. It's called The Guide to a Bogey-Proof Workout, and I will have that. I will have some upcoming news. I know I wanted to release this a long time ago, several months back, but surprising to me, it has taken a lot longer, this whole book writing process. It's at the editor right now. She's working on it, and so hopefully I'll have that coming up soon. And I'm actually going to be looking for a bit of a beta group to do a little bit of, not proofreading, but looking through it. I want to make sure that this book has the stuff in it that you guys want. So I'm going to ask, for a small group of readers, for those that are willing to help out and be a part of putting this book together, to go, to read and give me some feedback so I can make a couple little adjustments or make some huge adjustments, hopefully not, when the thing is ready. And then I swear that I will get this thing out pretty soon. I'm really excited about it. It's taken a long time, but there's a lot of stuff in there that I think will definitely benefit you guys. A lot of the content that I've gained and lessons I've gained from the show and some of the guests that I've had on here as well. So I think you guys will really appreciate the condensed information in there. And speaking of books, don't forget to go to 18strong.com, get your free ebook, 5 yards in less than 5 minutes, as a free gift from me and 18 Strong to help you, add a little distance to your drives, to your irons, to everything, working on some speed drills to get your game in shape. So thank you guys. I know you're going to enjoy this episode with Jeremy, and I will catch you on the other side. Hey everybody, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. We've got a special guest on today, Jeremy Crowe. Jeremy, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. And I know I kind of caught you at the last minute to bring you on the show. I saw a great post on Facebook and a little bit of a debate going on kind of in our Golf Fitness Pros group. And, you were one of the guys that was putting together some great information in there. And I figured, let's get Jeremy on, see if we can expand on this because it's such a great topic. And we'll get into that in just a little bit after we let the audience kind of get to know you a little. I always want the audience to know the people that are coming on the show and kind of get a little background on you and what you're doing. So tell us where you are, who you're working with, and what has you excited right now in your business and how you got into the golf and fitness world.
Well, I'm Jeremy, obviously. I live in Memphis, Tennessee. The way I got involved in golf, basically fear led me to golf. Basically, I played high school basketball, high school baseball. Didn't go past high school. Wasn't the best student in the world. But I had major ankle problems, sprained my ankle several times. I got to the point where I would land and just watch my feet as I landed. You know, I was playing with fear. And I got to the point where I couldn't play basketball anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. But I was so competitive and needed to do something else. And I turned on the ESPN, and there's this guy named Tiger Woods on television, and he's playing college golf. And he's over there pumping his fist, his high-fiving everybody. Nothing like I've ever seen in golf before. It really got me fired up, decided I was going to learn to play golf. There I went. I hit one good shot with a 6-iron, and I've been chasing that dragon ever since. I wanted to be around the game as much as I could. I knew I would never go pro, but what could I possibly do to get involved with golf? That led me to basically get my degree in exercise science. I ended up with a master's. I started training golf. I learned about TPI along the way, and I went and got certified. Went and got level 2 certified. I went and got level 3 certified. Got into the old golf biomechanics when they had it certified, level 2. And I went from there, and I tried to learn and soak up as much as I could, learning from people like Greg Cook, Greg Rose, Lance Gill, Jason Glass, Tom House, Stuart McGill. I've tried to learn from everybody I could possibly learn from who know anything about the body at all. And went from there. And I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I've got a master's degree in exercise science. And I just try to apply everything I can. The things I don't know, I try to learn. The things I think I know, I try to learn. I know nothing until I know it on a cellular level. And that's how I approach everything I do. It's always learn. I started working with golfers. I started working with the University of Memphis golf team, ladies and men. Started working with the Weekend Warrior. And one thing that hit me was I'm just working with golfers at this point. I'm doing a lot of assessments on these people. I'm not sure exactly what all these assessments mean. Flexibility, mobility, and I'm not exactly sure what they all mean, but I think I can apply these to other people as well. And before you know it, I started working with people who had a heart attack, had heart surgery. Now they're coming back and they're clear from their doctor and they want to exercise, but they have no idea what they can do. They need to work on range of motion. I applied the same assessments to them that I did with golfers. Where are you mobility-wise? Where are you stability-wise? Balance, all of that. And I started to see that these things apply to regular life. So I started working with multitudes of people. And before you know it, I'm now working at St. Jude. I work in the Children's Research Hospital, and we test for late-term effects for cancer. But I see a lot of kids who got late effects and then got issues, and we're testing these things. I'm applying some of the same things with them that I do with regular clients that I see on a regular basis. So my journey has taken me all over the map, from athletes to patients, cancer, heart, to the regular weekend warrior, to the person who sits behind the desk. You know, why is my back sore? Let me talk to you.
Well, I think that so many of us, we get in this fitness world, and we love going towards, working with the athletes, and, we talk a lot about working with golfers on this show, obviously, but so many of the fitness professionals out there, many of whom are listening and whom we've both worked with, we touch so many different people, and we work with so many different people, and I think this is a perfect place to kind of go on a platform to say that, this show, while it is about golf and it's about fitness, I love being able to bring people like you on who, not just to make somebody's golf game better, but to make them realize that simply living a healthier life, moving better, eating better, doing things that are going to help your posture and just get rid of your pain, those are things that are going to help your daily life. And in effect, that's also going to help your golf game. And I think that many times we get so caught up in all the different technique-based things and different things. But if we just take a step back and look at, how are you moving? How are you feeling? How are, when you're going into a training session, those are things that are going to affect your life, and those are things that are going to affect your golf game. And I think that you working at St. Jude's just speaks volumes to that, working with kids and using the same techniques and principles and things like that to help these people move, function, and live healthier lives.
Yeah, it really does pay off, and it's funny. Right now, I'm currently working with people who work within my office as well. They all have something going on. It's funny, we got into the debate about endurance. One of the people I'm working with, actually two of the people I'm working with now, are endurance athletes. One's an Ironman, and the other one is just a long-distance runner. Both compete competitively. And it's really ironic. The training that I give them is so they've never done this before, but I've added sprints to their training. Whether it be in the water or whether it be on land, I've added sprints, and they've never really done sprints before. They said, I'm an endurance athlete, I don't do sprints. But in order to do your sport well, you need to learn how to move well. And one of the ways to learn to move well is, let's look at your deficiencies and let's build on those. And one of the deficiencies they both had was in basically their fast twitch muscle fibers. They can't move. But it is funny. You see people working behind a desk and they sit down all day long and they wonder why their back hurts, and they've never heard of their hip flexors.
Yeah.
They have no idea where their hip flexors are. And it's just it's weird. But if you can change someone's life just by saying, hey, I go through the day and I know how to take care of some of the problems that I have. Not to say that your hip flexors are the reason your back's hurting completely, but man, if you can minimize pain or minimize discomfort, you change that person's life. Completely change their life.
Absolutely. And I think this is a perfect segue, talking about the endurance athlete and the debate that you were talking about. So in the Facebook group, there was a question posed, and I'll just read the question. It said, how do you respond to golfers who ask the reasons for including aerobic fitness in your training program? And so, as fitness professionals always do, everybody's got their own opinion, which I think is awesome. Everybody's got their own knowledge base and their educational background. So we have different people that are chiming in with different responses. And I thought this was a great debate to bring to the golfer audience. And, hopefully we can kind of break it down into more of layman's terms. So we're not getting so technical and talking about necessarily the different energy systems and things like that. But, what are some of the things that a golfer needs to kind of consider when we're talking about, different types of training, whether it be basically, how do you go about, you personally, when you have somebody who, has trouble with endurance on the course, what are some of the things that you start to focus on?
Well, the first thing I'm going to ask them is, I'm going to ask them about nutrition, and I'm going to ask them about sleep and rest. Those are the first things I'm going to ask them about. And when I say nutrition, I'm including hydration as well. Those are the first things to ask. If those two things are in check, then I want to know, okay, well, let's look at your endurance. To say that golf is not an endurance sport is really, that'd be an ignorant statement. It is an endurance sport. You've got to be able, especially if you look at the elite golfers, the PGA Tour, Web.com, LPGA, Senior Tour, they all have to, they're walking these courses. They're not riding carts. Well, I think they're changing towards riding carts, but for the most part, the pros are not riding carts. They're walking. In Chambers Bay, U.S. Open, I think they're walking 7 miles, and this is up and down hills. Endurance is a part of this. And if you look at collegiate golfers and high school golfers, they're actually carrying their own bag. All right? So it is an endurance sport. So I want to know, are you breaking down on the back nine? Are you breaking down on the front nine? Are you breaking down, are you tired when you first get there? What's going on? Are you warming up, and are you tired there? Once I figure out where they're breaking down, and I'll say most of them are going to break down, is going to be the back nine. It's
right.
Probably going to be the last 4 or 5 holes is where they're going to break down. And I want to know, are you missing the ball? Are you starting to leak it to the right? Or if you're a right-handed golfer, or leak to the left? Are you getting lazy with your swing? And if they are, well, then we need to work on their endurance. Now, the debate and the Facebook page was talking about, it broke down into the energy systems. And quickly, I'll just tell you what the energy systems are. Basically, if you look at a sprinter, someone who sprints for maybe 10 to 15 seconds, a 100-meter sprinter, a 200-meter sprinter, you're talking about those people there, Olympic lifters, that's your phosphagen. That's basically your really fast twitch muscle fibers. You can't do that for a long period of time. All right, those are the people we're talking about for the first system. The next one, you're talking about a 2-minute. Somewhere I don't want to get too technical, but basically, let's say 2 minutes You're talking maybe 800-meter runner. I know they run faster than, a little faster than that, but somewhere in that range. And then you have your endurance. And the people who are going to use more oxygen, they use more fat as the energy. And someone else who's using quicker, they're using more carbs for energy. And there's a crossover effect there. So eventually you're starting to use carbs, and then eventually you break into fat. Intensity is what dictates what energy system you're going to use. So whether you're using carbs or whether you're using fat, it's going to be largely, determined on what type of intensity you're putting into it. All right? So a golfer, if you just look at the whole sport and they're walking, it seems like an endurance sport, but it is a power sport, and it is a power sport first, because the golf swing is a very violent, powerful move. The average tour players, it's somewhere around 107 miles an hour, 104. I may be off of my numbers a little bit here, but they're over 100 miles an hour. That's really fast, and that's a lot of pressure on the spine. And it's very powerful, and it does not last very long. It lasts literally a second and a half, from the backswing to the downswing. It's very fast. I want my golfer, if I got to choose, to be powerful first. I need him to be powerful first. So I'm going to measure, first of all, his power. That's the first thing I'm going to do. When I go to work with him, if everything else is pretty much fine, nutrition and sleep, I'm going to work on his power first. That's where I always start.
Gotcha. And can you, so we kind of got into the debate of, okay, do you train both? Can you train both? What are your thoughts there?
It's very difficult to train both. I mean, Stuart McGill he just did an interview not long ago in T Nation, and Stuart McGill is. I hope everyone knows who Stuart McGill is, but he's the world leader in spine health, and basically he's worked with the elite of the elite athletes in the world. Very, very well studied, very intelligent. He's forgotten more than we will ever learn. Basically said you cannot train both. You cannot train both and expect to. I think I've got it right here. It says one cannot train for maximum explosive power and still train for endurance. That's a direct quote from him. You can't train both. Now, you got to find a way to periodize it. You can do blocks where basically you're training for one and then slowly move into another, but I don't like doing it that way. You'll never see Usain Bolt going out and for training for his 100-meter sprint, going out and doing a 2 or 3 mile run. That's not part of his training. He will get slower, but you will see endurance athletes, marathon runners, and Ironman athletes. You'll see them actually go out and do sprints. They'll do fartleks. They'll do all kinds of training because they will get faster in their times. It's just you're going to have a detriment. You're going to lose power trying to train for endurance. So the way I counter it is sprint training. Dr. Mark Smith is actually well published on this. Sprint training will actually help maintain your muscle mass. Actually, can help. And matter of fact, most importantly, will help with cardiovascular training. You don't have to go out and do a lot of endurance training. You don't have to do the aerobic training in order to receive the same benefits. You can do sprint training. And that's what we do with the athletes that I work with, the general public that I work with, some of the patients, special populations people I've worked with. We do sprint training, whether it be on a bike, whether it be on a track, whether it be in a pool, we do sprint training.
Well, yeah, if we can, let's back up a little bit and let's define a couple of these terms. So when you talk about aerobic training, what do you mean there? And then when we're talking about power and endurance and strength, just kind of give us a little bit of a basic definition of each of those.
Okay, so when you think of aerobic, I'm thinking of someone's going to go out. Let's say I'll use a short run, a 5K run, a 3.2 mile run. That's an aerobic exercise. You're going to go out, and it's going to take, an elite runner is going to run fairly quickly. You're talking, 16 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, 14 minutes for elite of the elite. The average person is going to run between 20 and 30 minutes. That's aerobic. It's the amount of time it takes you. So the energy system you're using here is going to be using, eventually we'll start out with carbs and we'll transfer over and we'll be using more fat as energy because it's going to be lower intensity. You can't run for that, high intensity doing that. Even the elite of the elite will eventually tire out. But it's aerobic because of the distance, the amount of time. And the fuel source. So,
this would be, the guy who gets off work 5 o'clock in the afternoon and he's like, well, you know what? I got 45 minutes. I can get to the gym. I think I'd be best served to just get on the treadmill, walk at a fast pace, or get on the elliptical. That's what we're talking about with aerobic training, right?
Yeah. Getting on a treadmill or getting on a bike and just go for a ride or go for a walk. Even they don't have to even have to run. They can just walk. That would be aerobic. And you're going to go out for a 45 minute to 30 minute walk or bike ride, whatnot. That's aerobic. That's exactly what we're talking about. When you go the other route, and let's say you're going to do, I would say the complete opposite of that. The person who gets on the bike or decides they're going to go to a track somewhere or they're going to go to a soccer field somewhere and they're actually going to do sprint training, well, you're literally done in half the time, if not less than half the time. And you're going to get, according to, you're going to get more of the benefit in less time. Someone gets on a bike and they decide, I'm going to do 30-second sprint or I'm going to do 45-second sprint all out. Then I'm going to give myself about a minute recovery and I'm going to do it again. Do 10 reps of those and see how you feel. It's not a very fun feeling when you first start, but you build the endurance up for that. And I tell you, and I say endurance for that, but you build up tolerance to that and your benefits are so much better. One, the amount of calories you burn post your workout is going to be higher versus the lower intensity going for the walk. You'll actually burn more fat doing it that way. It is a much simpler way to train, and you get that much more done in less time.
Yeah, it's definitely a much faster, more efficient, but as you said, not usually as fun of a workout. But not usually fun. When you get done, you definitely feel like you've accomplished something. And
I'll tell you what I tell my clients. I'll say easy is free.
Yeah,
easy is free.
I like that. I like that a lot. And then what about, so let's shift over kind of into the training room or into the fitness room, utilizing some weights and things like that. So kind of explain to us the idea of power and strength versus, training for fat loss and things like that. And what would your suggestion be for the golfer? And we're talking about the average guy who works 40, 50, 60 hours a week, getting in the gym, because I think sometimes that golfer is afraid of the word power and sometimes afraid of lifting weights. So where would you go with this person?
Well, after I do an assessment on someone, and let's say someone comes to me, I do their assessment, and they're fine. Their ankle dorsiflexion is great. They've got great hip hinge. They've got good rotation in the hips, shoulders, necks, low back is good. Everything is fine. They're free to go do whatever we want them to do. All right, that never happens. But let's say it did happen this one time, and their goal is they want to lose body fat. Okay, so when for getting nutrition right now, after we've tackled nutrition, now we're going to work on the weight. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to plan out a program for them where basically there's a little bit of periodization for them. Whether it's an athlete or whether it's the general population, general Joe guy, I'm going to do periodization with them. I want to put muscle on them. I want muscle on them. I don't mean bodybuilder muscle. I just mean muscle mass, lean muscle mass. Because the more muscle mass I can put on them, I'll burn more fat that way. With them just sitting down, more muscle mass you'll burn. That's just excess physiology. You'll just burn fat just sitting there. Intensity is low when you're sitting there. But if they come to me and they say they want power, okay, now we're talking about moving things quickly, and being explosive. But power is not necessarily, and not all power moves about moving quickly. But let's say they want to be explosive, or let's say explosive, an Olympic lift, and they say they want to learn Olympic lift. All right, well, that's moving an implement pretty quickly. All right, that's your sprinter. Those are your fast twitch fibers, and you want them moving quickly. I'm going to start them basically with a PVC pipe, a basketball. Like I have a kid right now, a junior golfer that I'm working with right now, that he needs to be more explosive. So basically, I have him in his backyard right now. He will go out there and he will do 4 to 5 repetitions, and he'll do these for 3 sets. And all he's going to try and do is throw that soccer ball as high as he can in the air. He will squat down, and he's going to explode up, and he's going to throw that ball as high as he possibly can. And he's not going to do it until fatigue. He's going to do this for very low reps, and he's trying to move as quickly as he can. If it feels like he might be getting tired or the ball's not going as high, we stop. We let him rest, full recovery. He gets 2 to 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever he needs, full recovery, and then we do another set.
All right. I want to jump in real quick here because I think that right there is very important for everybody to understand. So why do you stop when he's getting fatigued? Because, there's such a mentality when we're working out that I'm not getting anything out of this unless I'm dog tired by the time I finish.
And that's a problem in fitness right now. And honestly, they're not the only culprit. One of the culprits, I'll name, is because it's the most popular right now, is CrossFit. Everyone believes that in order for an exercise or a workout to be effective, you have to leave there basically, you may need to have vomited once or twice during the workout. And honestly, that's no way to train. And I'm not going to say that that's never going to happen. That's happened with some of the people I've worked with. They've gotten sick. But when you're doing explosive exercises, I need everything working at full capacity. Everything working at full capacity, including muscles that are supposed to be stabilizing joints like your lumbar spine, your low back. I need those muscles to be stiff when they need to be stiff and stabilize when they need to stabilize. And if you're fatigued, that can't happen. And when you do explosive training, it's never meant to be done for high repetitions. Explosive training, power training, they're not cardiovascular in nature. They're just not. They are anaerobic. They're the opposite. They're supposed to be done very quickly, low reps, full recovery, and then do it again. And if you need more recovery, do it, and then take the recovery you need, but then do it again. And it's low reps. If you watch Olympic lifters when they're training for the cleans, the snatches, clean and jerks, push presses, they're not doing high repetitions. They're training singles, doubles, occasionally triples. They're not doing a lot of high repetitions because that's not part of their training. That's not going to help them get better at their sport. That's going to actually be a detriment. Trying to add cardio to this is going to be a detriment.
Well, and I think if you look at, you mentioned it before, the nature of golf is a power sport first. And when you hit a driver, you hit it, and you're not out of breath, ready to throw up after you hit it. So you're kind of training much more like the way that you're going to be playing your game. Yes, as you mentioned, you're walking for 5, 6, 7 miles. That's if you're walking, not using a cart. But again, you're not swinging your club 30 times in a row as hard as you can to hit 30 balls. You're hitting it once, and then you get to kind of chill out. Your body gets to recover a little bit, and then you're hitting it again. It kind of goes to that principle of train specifically for what your sport demands, and you'll get better in that sport.
Yeah, that's the set principle: specific adaptations to imposed demands. That's it in a nutshell. And when you train this way, like you said, when you swing a golf club, and whether it be a driver, 3-wood, iron, whatever, you basically swing it as fast as you can, and then you walk to your ball. And you're recovering the entire time you're walking to your ball. And the next time you get up, you're looking at it, you figure out what club you're going to hit next, and then you swing and hit that ball again, and then you walk to the green. And then you make the putt, and then you walk to the next tee. That's exactly how you're training. And basically, like you just said, it's specific adaptation to imposed demands. You're training specifically for the adaptations you need. And my philosophy in golf is power first. Look at the top golfers in the world. They're all talking about explosiveness. Rory McIlroy, training for explosiveness. Look how fast his hips move. And that's not because he's going out running 5 miles.
Right. It's because he's doing the things that are going to allow him to move quicker, move faster, move heavier weight, and obviously then swing a club faster. Now, somebody in the Facebook thread, and it might have been Patrick Ward. There were a couple guys that had some great contributions. Pete Cunningham, Scott Morrison, Patrick Ward, all those guys. And I think Patrick mentioned the idea of the training age or training level. Can you explain what that is? If somebody out there hears the term training age, what does that mean?
I look at that as, how long have you been training? Exactly how long have you been training? If you're an athlete, if you're a high school athlete and then collegiate and whatnot, your training age is going to be pretty high. Chances are you've been training for a while. But you have a lot of novice people out there. I would say the training age, and I'll put it like this: I don't always count necessarily the age that you've been training. What age you've been training properly is where a lot of times where I'll look. And when I assess them, if I'm looking at an athlete, I'm going to watch athletic movements as well, and that's just side to side. If someone's moving laterally, side to side movements, I'm going to look at jumps. I'm going to look at sprint form. It depends on what the sport is. But I'm going to look to see, and then I'm going to look to see how they actually work out. I want to see what they've actually been doing. If they come to me and they're an athlete and they're already training, I want to see what they've been doing. So I'll look at how long have you been trained properly as well. So when I look at training age for an athlete, it's different than what I would look at for someone who's basically the average weekend warrior. I look at it differently. I'm not sure how if anyone else does that, but for me, it helps me out better, especially with the athletes. Because I know where their foundation is, and a lot of them, their foundation is pretty weak. A lot of the ones I see. I would
agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. And there's many times, even with some of the high school athletes, they come in, you ask them, okay, have you been working out, or what have you been doing? Oh yeah, I've been lifting weights for 4 or 5 years. But you watch them, and the form's not great. They've never really been taught. They've kind of been doing things on their own, and that's a perfect example of somebody whose training age is really pretty low, even though they've been doing it. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I had a kid that I was training, a football player. He was going into his senior year. He had a couple of colleges, low-level colleges. I think they were Division II, offers for him. But they had some things they wanted him to do, and they were looking at him. And so he came to me, and we were talking. And I said, all right, well, tell me how long you've been working out. And he goes, man, I play football. I've been working out forever. Okay, I said, so what are we talking about? What kind of lifts are you doing? He goes, man, let me just show you something. He lifted up his shirt and showed me his abdominals. I mean, this dude was ripped. I mean, he was ripped. Now, this guy's a wide receiver, okay? So I said, great. I'll tell you what, let's do some planks. I just want to see planks. You say you've been lifting. Let's just see if you can do a plank. He couldn't hold the plank for more than 90 seconds. Now, he's a wide receiver. He's in lifting. I've got golfers that are in their 70s that can hold planks for 3 to 4 minutes. This guy's going into his senior year of high school. Has got a ripped 6-pack, and he can't hold a plank for 90 seconds. But he's got abs, and so I mean, how can that be? His abs have got to be strong. Well, I started watching his training mode and how he actually trained people. And how he actually trains with his teammates and everything else, how he lifted. I saw him do squats. I understand why he's got a problem now. He's squatting. He's basically doing a good morning in a squat position.
Right.
It's not good motion at all. He's not using the muscles he's supposed to be using. So his training age to me was low.
So
we started the basics for him.
So when you have somebody with a lower training age, because I've had plenty of clients that are golfers. They come to me because they realize they need to improve their fitness level. They want to make sure that their golf game's getting better. They're getting stronger and all that. But their training age is pretty low. They haven't had a chance. They didn't play sports growing up, maybe, or whatever. How do you then tackle that situation, or let's take a different route. Even if this person's not working with somebody like you, what should the listeners, or what can they start to focus on if they know that they've got a bit of a lower training age? How does this whole power endurance talk, how is that affected by their training level?
Well, first, if they don't have a training, I mean, let's say the training age is 0 and they're coming from scratch. I'm going to start very basically. I'm going to teach them fundamentals. The best exercise in the world. I think Jason Glass will love this. Push-ups. I'm going to teach them push-ups. And if they can't do a complete push-up, then what I'll do is I'll start them a push-up against the wall, and I will eventually lower them down to a chair. I'll eventually lower them down to the floor. I'll get them on a Smith machine and lower the bar as low as I need to get it until I get them on the floor doing push-ups. Push-ups are very fundamental. I'll get them doing planks, bridges. I'll get them doing single leg things. Eventually moving them into kettlebell swings. I don't like loading people who can't handle their own body weight. I'm a big believer in people should be able to handle their own body weight. So if you can't do a push-up, I'm not sure why I should load you down with outside forces. And I want you doing that. I had a senior lady came to me once. She was, I'm going to get her age wrong. I think she was 71, 73, somewhere in that range there. Basically came to me. She had never really done any exercise. She comes from a generation where women just didn't go to the gym. If they did, they walked on the treadmill. But she needed to do yard work. She said her husband was a lazy bum and was never going to do anything, and she needed to get basically flower beds done. And she's coming to me in December, and she's ready to start doing the stuff in the spring, like late March, early April, somewhere in there. So I've got about roughly 3.5, 4 months to get her ready to do the things she wants to do, just to do yard work around her house. Within about a month, she could do just about 10 push-ups. She would get to about the 10th one, and she'd fail on the 10th one. But she couldn't do a push-up. She couldn't do a plank when she came to see me. It was about basically meeting her where she was. I had her do, just like I just said, push-ups on the wall, push-ups further down the wall, got her on the Smith machine with the bar lowered down, further down, closer to the floor, basically got her on the floor, and got her to the point where she could do literally about 9.5 to 9 3/4 push-ups. She had, her training age was absolutely 0, and here she is in her early 70s. Teaching them to stand up properly, teaching them what form looks like when you actually sit up properly, where you actually sit up, where your chest is out, your shoulders are back and down, you don't have the forward neck where your chin is all butted out, sitting with proper form, seeing what that feels like, how long can you hold that position? And now let's try that position in a plank. And holding that position, how long can you do that? And watch. And what muscles do you feel when you do that? And they start telling me how they feel. Basically getting them used to feeling what their body feels like. And they tell me, once they do that, they can start to recruit muscles a little better. Now we can move on to some more things, a little more tough, a little more workable with maybe some outside weights, kettlebells, things like that.
Yeah, I love that. Using the body weight, and all of that stuff is working on so many things that you don't even really realize. And I know that I've had situations where you bring somebody in and you just start them out with some simple things like some lunges, some split squats, where they start to figure out, oh man, I always thought I could do something like this, but they then realize how hard it is and how taxing it is, just working on some squats and maybe some sort of a row or a push-up and things like that. But then all of a sudden they start to notice that, oh man, this is my golf game's getting a little better, or I'm feeling better on the back nine. And I think it has that carryover effect where, you automatically think, okay, my endurance is low on the back nine. I should probably get on the treadmill. I should probably run more. I should probably walk for an hour, that kind of stuff. I think that's been a mentality for a long time. But I think that once people start to get into some of these training programs where you're just really working on some basic functional movements, if you're at that lower training level, start working on those, you start to feel, oh man, my body's moving a little better. My hips are moving better. I don't have pain in the morning when I wake up. And they start to see all that carryover. And then you can start kind of moving them into, like you said, the kettlebells or some weights or just kind of adding some dumbbells and things like that. It doesn't always have to be, I got to work on my endurance. Sometimes you just have to back it up and say, well, let's kind of see where you are, get these specific functional movements going and make sure you're strong there. And then you start to see much improvement in all other forms.
And I really think that's the key word you said, is you have to see where they are. You really have to try to meet people where they are. Not everybody, especially as trainers, if anyone who's been in the training business knows that you eventually going to have a client they're going to be brand new to training. They're not going to trust you. They're coming to you because someone either told them, maybe your picture was hanging on the wall or whatever, but they really don't trust you. They really don't want to do this. And a lot of trainers fall into the trap of trying to do the bells and whistles. I need to get this client because, man, I really need the money, versus, man, this is my philosophy. This is what I really believe is going to help you. I know this will help you. Just if you just pay attention and just listen to me, I promise you this is going to help. Trusting what you know and meeting that person where they are is really going to pay dividends for that person. Instead of trying to make them do something that maybe they didn't want to do in the first place. And it's going to cause, to me, a lot more mistrust. Exactly. And I would say, too, we were talking about power. I don't have a client, unless they can't touch your toes, I don't have a client that I've not done a deadlift with. To me, it's one of the most fundamental exercises you do. I had a lady who, she had a baby, basically, and she tried to tell me that deadlifts were not important. And I said, really, do you ever put your baby on the floor? She said, yes. I said, how do you pick your baby up? She goes, I bend over and pick the baby up. You just perform the deadlift. Deadlifts are one of the most fundamental exercises you can do. Not everybody can do a deadlift with a straight bar. And we do deadlifts in many different ways, and that's fine. But deadlifts are still a fundamental exercise, just like squats. They are a fundamental exercise. They can be broken down in many different ways to do it in different variations. But I don't have a client, unless they can't touch her toes, that does not do a deadlift.
I would second the motion on that. I can say the exact same thing, that it's one of the most, if not the best exercise, especially because everything that we do in our society is so forward-based. We're always, hunched over. It's such a great exercise to train the whole backside, the posterior side, and it's really one of the pieces that most people are missing in their program. All right, Jeremy, I don't want to keep you too long, but I have a couple standard questions that I ask everybody at the end of the show. When we do get in and have time for them. First of all, one of the most important, are you a Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore fan?
Oh, I'm a Caddyshack fan.
Nice. And I always like to kind of get a feel for the guest's definition or what the term 18 strong conjures up in your head when you hear that phrase.
18 strong, man. That is it. Oh man, you put me on the spot with this.
Yep.
18 strong. I just, as soon as I tell you what, the first thing I thought of when I saw the name of the show, 18 strong, I thought of 18 birdies.
Oh, nice.
That's really what I thought about. 18 birdies. That is a dream, a goal. I don't know if I'm going to reach it, but that's 18 birdies is what I thought of.
I love it.
Yeah.
Very unique answer. All right. So what do you have going on that has you most excited for the year 2015 and upcoming months for you?
Man, I am right now. I am in the process of of formulating my philosophy, just evaluating my overall philosophy over the years. And I heard a quote not long ago that, really just kind of changed my way of thinking, that really just made me want to just look at my philosophy and make sure everything matched up with the way that quote. The quote was, the greatest obstacle to being great is not being bad, but it's settling for being good. So what am I doing in my life right now that is keeping me from the greatness that I have before me? And for my clients as well, is there greatness in my client? And of course there is. What can I do as their trainer to help them find the greatness that they have? And so basically I'm just evaluating my philosophy this year, and it really has got me really pumped up this year. And for some, that makes it seem simple, but to me, it was mind-blowing when I heard that quote. It really had a huge impact on me. So right now, that's really what I've got going on. I'm evaluating that. I'm looking at, I've got some junior golfers I'm working with, and I've got some long-standing clients I've been working with, and I've kind of shared that with them, and literally, they kind of had the same excitement that I had. So lots of evaluation this year. Lots of evaluation.
That's awesome. I love that philosophy, and I think that most of us don't take the time to sit back and kind of think about those things. It seems like it should be such a no-brainer and so simple that you reflect and say, okay, what am I doing that I'm doing well, and what could I get better at? Mm-hmm. So I applaud you for that, and I'm sure it's making huge changes in your business. All right.
It is. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have one last piece of advice for the audience before we let you go today?
Man, train smart, move often. Don't be satisfied. Don't be content. Keep striving. Keep moving.
And then where can the 18 Strong listeners find out more about you or follow you on any social media if you have it out there?
You can find me at Jeremy Crowe on Twitter. It's just Jeremy Crowe. Twitter, Facebook, same thing. You can learn a lot about me on the My TPI website for Titleist, on oofos.com, OOFOOS.com, recovery sandal that a company I'm involved with as well. You can find out some information about me there as well. Message me on Facebook. I would love to talk to you. I'm on the golf fitness friends as well. So if you're on there, come find me there as well.
Excellent. And everybody knows that I'll have all this stuff linked up on the show notes page, so they'll be able to find your Twitter, your Facebook, all that stuff, and get in touch with you and send you some messages. If you guys have any questions for Jeremy, either send them his way or send them to me. I'll make sure that he gets them, and we can put you guys in touch. Jeremy, really want to thank you for coming on the show. I know that the 18 Strong listeners will get a ton of information out of this episode, and hopefully we'll kind of retrain maybe or rethink some of the ways that they've been training in the past and what it really means for them to work on their endurance and what they're doing in the gym and make sure that everything is as efficient as possible. So thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me on as well. Thank you.
You bet, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. I know you got a ton of information out of Jeremy's episode. We talk about so many different things that are very valuable, and I think Jeremy did a great job of really kind of breaking things down so you don't have to be a golf fitness professional or a fitness professional to understand some of the different concepts. But basically the way I look at it is, depending on your training level, if you're starting out at a lower training level, you just need to start working on some of the basic moves, some of the basic strengthening principles. Make sure that you're able to do some things like a squat, a lunge, a deadlift, pushing exercises, pulling exercises, like we talk about in so many of the different shows that we've had on here. But as your training level gets to be higher, that's when we tend to start working on some more specific things. And I think that's where the periodization, which is basically just kind of setting specific goals for different chunks of time when you're training, different blocks of, it might be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, a month, whatever, or 2 months, whatever it might be. But when you start to get to a higher level, and some of these professional golfers and higher level amateurs and just people that have trained for a while, then you can start worrying a little bit more about specifically dialing into endurance or specifically dialing into power and strength. But I'm much like Jeremy. I will tend to go more towards building up your strength and building up your movement patterns, as opposed to doing a lot of the cardio and aerobic work, because I think you're going to get a lot of those benefits from your strength training. Even though you may not feel exhausted and tired during your workouts, I can say that I've seen it time and time again where working with clients, they start to see an improvement in their ability to walk through the full 18 holes, or their strength in their legs on the last few holes, and just being able to hit better shots because they've got better posture. And a lot of that comes from the strength training. Then if you want to start tying in some sprint intervals and things like that, that's maybe something to start looking at later. But again, if your training level is very low, start with the basics, move on from there, and then you'll continue to get better. So once again, I thank you guys for coming to the 18 Strong podcast. Don't forget, as always, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.